In a special CBS 19 report tonight, Palestine native Billy Bradley was known all over East Texas for his exploits on the football field. In a Bond Beyond Football, CBS 19's Jeff Schaefer explores Bradley's athletic achievements as well as a special relationship he developed during his playing days.
In sports, we spend a lot of time discussing scores, statistics, and championships, but so often games can impact lives off the playing field. That was the case in the 1960s when an East Texas football phenom made a meaningful relationship that started thanks to his play on the gridiron and remained strong off the field. During his playing days, Bill Bradley made all kinds of headlines. A multi-sport star in high school, he went on to play football at the University of Texas, and after college was drafted into the NFL as a punter, eventually becoming an all-pro safety. And Bradley started his journey to the highest level of football by honing his athletic abilities growing up in Palestine.
Well, we always had our own little competition against each other, so we were always making each other better, not realizing it, but to be successful, you had to get real good at what you did to beat your buddy.
I just recognized the fact that he was a force to be reckoned with. He was going to be good at anything he tried or wanted to do.
I couldn't have grown up in a better environment than we did. Now, we had our challenges, but we knew one thing: whenever we went to a ball field, whatever that field was, you had to come together as a team.
A perfect example of that team concept is the 1964 Palestine High School football team that won a state championship, quarterbacked by Bill Bradley.
Well, the quarterback always gets the news clippings. They still do to the day. You'd think there'd be a lot of jealousy, but there never was any jealousy, and Bill was the primary reason for that because he never let it go to his head.
To win a state championship, you can't just win it with one guy. You got to have a team full of really good football players.
We got to be just more like brothers than teammates. You just weren't going to let the other guys down at whatever it was.
Everybody stuck together and everybody looked out for each other.
The feeling of your team camaraderie is something you can't explain to a lot of people. That's just there, or else you're not going to win.
Bill Bradley's career playing and coaching football has taken him all over the map, from Palestine to Philadelphia, Austin to San Diego, even north of the border to Canada. Now he's coaching here in Beaumont as the defensive coordinator for Lamar University, and he says he cherishes the relationships he's built at all levels of football.
If you go 2-14 or you go 14-2, ultimately you end up talking about the friends you made and the relationships you made in a locker room.
Bill's friends with all of his former teammates. I mean, he has friends at other teams. He's always just been, a good person that people like.
You can tell a man's wealth by the friends he has, real friends he has.
Bradley formed one of those friendships in 1965 at the Big 33 football game in Hershey, Pennsylvania, a contest that pitted a team of Texas All-Stars against some of the best players from Pennsylvania. 65 was the first year African Americans played on the Texas squad, and one of the black players, the speedy Jerry Levias from Beaumont Heber, needed a roommate. Team officials asked Bradley if he would room with Levias. Bradley said he would. In fact, he had to say so more than once.
The third time they came back, they said, "You sure you want to room with Mr. Levias?" I said, "Yeah. Why? Does he have fever or leprosy? What's the deal?" And they said, "Oh, he's a little Negro man," is what they said. And I said, "Excuse me?" And they said, "Yeah." I said, "He's a football player, isn't he?" And they went, "Oh, yeah, he's a good football player." I said, "I'd love to room with him." I was glad to be the one they asked. Because I was brought up in a very, very respectful home. We didn't use derogatory words about anybody.
The race of his roommate didn't matter to Bradley, nor Levias, who says he wanted to meet the star he had heard so much about.
I had been reading about this guy, Bill Bradley from Palestine all the time. So, playing in Heber, we played a good brand of ball, and they were talking about he was the best ever since sliced bread. And so when I got there, I wanted to see Bill Bradley.
We hit it off right off the bat.
It was like I was his little brother.
He's been too kind on that. Jerry was his own person. Matter of fact, I've always thought Jerry was probably a step ahead of me, period. Definitely with his feet speed and this, but as a person too.
I was one of these guys who was coachable, always followed curfew and stuff like that. Bill had me sneaking out. I was following him everywhere. So he could have led me down the river.
Author Jim Dent has written several books about football in Texas and in August published The Kids Got It Right, which tells the story of how Bradley and Levias started their lifelong friendship at the Big 33 game.
I was so impressed that an 18-year-old in 1965 was standing up for the black race. They became great friends. They became brothers. I mean, to me, they really became brothers. And that was what was the gist of the story.
It's not a man's color of his skin, it's the color that he wears. And anybody that wears the same color that you got in a football game, you got a bond, you're friends, man.
The way he is, it transcends color of racism. And what it meant to me to make the friendship with Bill Bradley, you can't beat it.
The friendship continued after they left Hershey. Levias had signed to play football for SMU, becoming the first black scholarship athlete in the history of the Southwest Conference, and says Bradley helped him cope with some of the hard times he experienced as that pioneer.
He was kind of a big brother figure at that time for me, and I didn't think it was going to be bad as it was. And I thought I would maybe find someone like a Bill Bradley at SMU, but I never did.
At Texas, we'd play SMU, and then you could hear some derogatory comments out on the field. And then after the game, I know I ripped a couple of guys, some friends of mine, for that coming to the forefront. I found Jerry right after the game, and I apologized to him.
His friendship laid the basis for me for accepting of other people, accepting of the white kids, regardless if they were racist or not.
Nearly 5 decades since it was formed, the bond between these two friends remains strong.
Our friendship will be eternal.
But if I see him tomorrow in a crowd of 10, 1, a million, we're definitely going to be with each other. I mean, we're going to be standing right side by side and hanging out with each other.
As I mentioned, Bill Bradley is coaching at Lamar University, which isn't the easiest thing for him. It keeps him away from his wife, stepdaughter, and stepson a lot during football season. He wanted folks out there to keep them in their thoughts, especially his stepson Matthew, who is working hard to recover and rehab from serious head injuries he suffered a few years ago. A big thank you to Bill, Jerry Levias, Jim Dent, May Bradley, the folks out in Palestine for their help and contributions to that story. Back to you.
An incredible bond. Thank you. Now, Jim Dent's book, The Kids Got It Right, is available at Barnes & Noble in Tyler and Amazon.com.